Representative Iraq for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, allow me at the outset to congratulate you on your assumption of the presidency of the Security Council this month. I thank your predecessor for conducting the work of the Security Council last month. I would also like to thank the Secretary General of the United Nations for participating and being with us today in this session. We stand in solidarity with him in the face of the Israeli campaigns against him. Madam President, for the past months, the Security Council held successive sessions to discuss the continued Israeli aggression on the Palestinian people and on the countries of our region. We would not have gotten here. We would not be holding this emergency session and maybe other sessions in the next days had your council shouldered its main responsibility in the maintenance of international peace and security since the beginning of the barbaric Israeli aggression on Gaza. The majority of leaders and representatives of member states who spoke at the General Assembly in the past few days during the high-level general debate, they called upon the Security Council to take immediate action to stop the barbaric Israeli aggression on the Palestinian people and to stop the repeated Israeli attacks on the states of the region, to implement its resolutions to end the Israeli occupation of Arab-occupied territories, to stop its continued crimes which started decades ago. Their statements reflected a genuine international will to put an end to the impunity of the Israeli occupation entity and its obsession with war and bloodshed. All these calls were met by Israeli war criminals continuing their criminal aggression in Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon, showing off their violations of international law and the UN Charter. They have been leveling accusations against our organization and trying to terrorize its representatives and agencies, including UNRWA. We meet today as our region is on the brink of an all-out destructive war that can spare no one. It is no longer acceptable for the Security Council response to be limited to holding session after session without adopting any product that could lead to a serious and tangible action. To be more specific, the reluctance of the United States to stop this Israeli madness, but rather supporting and encouraging it, while preventing the Security Council to shoulder its responsibility, namely to maintain international peace and security, is what got us to this dangerous situation. The US administration cannot deny its responsibility by making statements to express concern, or warning against dangerous escalation, or calling for restraint, at a time when it continues to provide unlimited, multifaceted support to the Israeli occupation entity, vowing to protect it from accountability and ensuring its impunity. Madam President, it was not enough for the Israeli occupation authorities to see the tens of thousands of lives they have killed, to see the bloodshed, to see the infrastructure they destroyed in occupied Palestine. They continued the escalation in the region, pushing it towards a full-on war by continuing their attacks on the states of the region, including my country, Syria. The Israeli occupation forces launched repeated attacks targeting civilians in safe areas, targeting civilian infrastructure and residential buildings, even targeting diplomatic premises. The latest attack on Monday targeted a number of safe residential neighborhoods and regions in Damascus with drones and airstrikes, killing 3 civilians, including 1 journalist, and injuring 7 others, while also causing tremendous property damage. A few minutes ago, another Israeli aggression targeted a residential building in Damascus, leading to the killing of 3 people and injuring others. Those are the preliminary numbers. In brotherly Lebanon, the criminal occupation authorities use civilian communication equipment to conduct mass killing. And then they mobilized their forces in preparation of an incursion. They targeted a number of residential buildings in the southern suburb of Beirut in order to assassinate the Secretary General of Hezbollah, who led an honorable Lebanese national resistance against the Israeli occupation. All these different forms of the barbaric Israeli occupation on our region were also perpetrated during the General Assembly, during the high-level week of the General Assembly, which reflects Israel's contempt for our organization and the calls of its member states. The so-called Israeli Prime Minister boasted about taking the decision of attacking the southern Beirut suburb from here in New York, following a propaganda campaign full of misleading lies that he launched during his statement, while the majority of delegations refused to listen to him. The Syrian Arab Republic condemns all the continued Israeli aggression on the states of the region. We call upon the Security Council to take immediate action to put an end to the Israeli impunity, which is setting the region on fire, which is threatening international and regional peace and security. We reaffirm our legitimate right to defend our people and land to fight these crimes with all the means guaranteed by the international law. We also reaffirm that we stand with the Palestinian and Lebanese people. We fully support them despite the grave challenges facing Syria, caused by the aggressive policies adopted by Western states in service of Israel, and despite the illegitimate coercive measures and inhumane blockade imposed on Syria, Syria will spare no effort to provide humanitarian assistance to our brothers and sisters in Lebanon. We have mobilized as a government and civil society all our energy and resources to help all those coming from Lebanon, be they Syrian, Lebanese, or from other nationalities. Madam President, Article 51 of the Charter stipulated the legitimate right of states to self-defense. This is an inherent right for people and states, and the Israeli occupation entity does not have it. This was stressed by the ICJ. Because occupation and the aggression it represents is the basic crime which deprives its perpetrators from any rights. The inaction of the Security Council allowed the Israeli occupation entity to cross all red lines, pushing the Islamic Republic of Iran to practice its legitimate right to self-defense based on Article 51 of the Charter, in response to the aggression of the Israeli occupation entity. The Iranian response came after a long period of self-restraint and attempts to prevent further escalation. The Iranian response was limited to military and security facilities. This stresses Iran's responsible approach regarding international and regional peace and security. We were not surprised to hear the representative of the US administration and a number of her alliances criticize the Iranian response. These states look at the Charter as a tool that they use at their own whims to target their foes and protect their partners. We have listened time and again to the representatives of successive US administrations presenting false and distorted interpretations of Article 51 of the Charter to justify aggression on states that are thousands and thousands of miles away, to occupy their land, to loot their resources under the pretext of quote-unquote protecting or maintaining national US security or fighting terrorism, while prohibiting other states from practicing their legitimate right to self-defense at their immediate borders in the face of a genuine aggression against them. In conclusion, Madam President, the representatives of member states who took the floor and spoke at the General Assembly in the last few days have spoken. It is now high time for the Security Council to listen, to take urgent and serious steps to stop the continuing suffering in Gaza, to stop the bloodshed in the region, to put an immediate and unconditional end to the Israeli aggression on Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon, to stop and end the Israeli occupation of Arab territories by implementing the relevant Security Council resolutions. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative